Greetings, Bassketeers, Josh here, and today we are continuing to address essential topics in the field of rhythm. Today we are getting into 16th notes, which are pretty simple conceptually and very important for you if you want to play normal music, which involves a significant amount of 16th note subdivision. So, as we've learned so far, all music has a basic pulse. Most of the music we listen to is in 4/4 time, which means that we organize those pulses into groups of 4, and we call each of those groups a bar, and we call each one of those pulses a quarter note. So last week we learned about eighth notes, which is where we cut those quarter notes in half, and instead of just going 1, 2, 3, 4, we go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So what we're going to do now is cut those eighth notes in half again, which gives us 16th notes. So now we're going to have 4 evenly divided hits per beat if we were to do a bar of all 16th notes. And just real quick, the way this name comes about is actually from how it lines up in 4/4 time, where you've got 4 quarter notes in a bar. If you think about the fractions of that, if you have 4 fourths, you get a total of 1. If you have 8 eighths, you get 1. If you have 16 sixteenths, you get 1. Just basic fraction math there. So that's where these names come from. Even when you're in time signatures where there are not 16 sixteenth notes in a bar or 8 eighth notes in a bar, we still use those names as relative conventions. But when we're working 4/4 time, you can actually see where those names came from. So 16th notes, the way you typically count these, where we were counting eighth notes 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, now with the 16th notes we're going to fill in between the 1 and the and between the and the 2, we're going to go 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and etc. There are other ways you can do it, but that is what I find is most common with the people I've interacted with over the years in musical circles. 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and remember, it's very important that it's not just 4 notes per beat, it's 4 evenly divided notes per beat. So 1E and 2E and you need to be very metronomic and robotic when you're subdividing 16th notes. Not that you should always play them robotically, but you should be able to, and then you can decide where you're going to place them on the beat. And we're just going to look at very evenly subdivided 16ths today. We're not going to worry about swinging anything. We're just going to keep it simple. So before we get into exercise 1, which is just a reading exercise, let's just practice counting and clapping 16ths. Let's go ahead and turn on our metronome here. So this is just a basic click at 80 BPM. You can hear there's a strong beat on 1, 3, 4, 1. So if you think of that pulse as a quarter note, 2, 3, 4. Eighth notes would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. So if we double that to 16ths, we get 3, 4, 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and say it along with me. 3E and 4E and 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E. Okay, now let's try clapping that just for fun. So here's quarter notes. Now we'll do eighth notes, and 2, and 3, and now 16ths, eighths, 16ths, eighths. You get the idea. So that should be very comfortable and not too difficult. That's just a basic 16th note pulse. You can do it. So the trickiness with 16ths is just getting into all the possible, now since we're dealing with finer units of time, there's more possible syncopations and different rhythms that you have to interact with. But of course, you just take them one at a time, practice them, and you'll be on your way to mastery. So today we are going to do a little reading exercise and then just look at 2 basic 16th note rhythms that aren't too challenging to grasp. And then next week we'll get into some more syncopated stuff. So if we look at exercise 1 here, which of course is on the free PDF that comes along with all these lesson videos, which you can get by clicking on this link image. We'll get that PDF happening, and then exercise 1 is a reading exercise that integrates all the elements we've looked at so far. Quarter notes, eighth notes, and basic 16th note rhythms. Here I've just got, the only 16th notes you're dealing with are in groups of 4, like 1E and or 2E and a, or 3E and a, or 4E and a. You don't have to worry about them coming in on an offbeat or anything like that for the purpose of exercise 1. Okay, before we play this, let's count it out loud, and then we will clap it, and then we will play it on the bass. You don't necessarily have to do this in that order all the time when you're practicing on your own, but I think it's really great to practice rhythms with either counting or clapping or both away from your bass, because you tend to just have so many habits when you pick up your bass of how you normally play that sometimes it gets in the way of your rhythmic playing. So if you're having trouble playing any given rhythm, if you try to just clap it, it can help take away some of your habitual patterns with the bass and just focus on your actual rhythmic abilities, and then you can try to integrate that into your playing. But counting and clapping is a really important rhythm training tool. So here's our metronome again. Let's just count exercise 1 out loud. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1E and a 2, 3 and 4. 1 and 2E and a 3. 1, 2 and 3E and a, and 1, 2E and a 3, 4 and. Isn't that fun? Don't I sound cool when I say that? All right, let's do it clapping. 1, 2, 3, 4. If that's too hard, as always, I will recommend that you pause the video, whip out your own metronome, slow it down. That's at 80 BPM, so maybe try it at 50 or 60 if you really want to slow it down. But you should be comfortable with all those elements. We've got one syncopated 8th note in there in bar 3, which we of course covered last week. But that's probably the quirkiest part of reading that rhythm, is coming off that. In bar 3, coming off 3E and then rest on 4, then hit on the and of 4. But you know, as I'll say this in the end of the video too, but make sure you check out, I made a rhythm resources page for you guys on my website. There will be a link in the description for that as well. I really recommend that you do a lot of reading practice outside of these videos, because I'm just trying to get these concepts across, but you'll need to practice them a lot and over and over and over and over again if you really want to have a good rhythmic foundation. So I've scoured the net and found some good resources for you guys to check out. So I recommend that you make use of that. Okay, let's go ahead and play this. Exercise 1. Just gonna play it on the G string. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so moving right along here, in exercise 2, we're going to look at a common 16th note rhythm called the Gallop, which is an 8th note and 2 16th notes in a little group. Again, if we look at the math, a quarter note equals 1 beat, an 8th note equals half of a beat, and a 16th note equals a quarter of a beat. So if we add an 8th note and 2 16th notes together, we get the equivalent of 1 quarter note. So if we look at exercise 2, these groups, 8th, 2 16ths, you get 4 of those groups in a bar, just like you would have 4 quarter notes in a bar. Of course, in this pattern, we don't have 4 of those groups. We have 3 groups with the 8th and 2 16ths, and then the last beat 4, we've got 4 16th notes, 4 E and a. So if we were to count this rhythm out for exercise 2, it would be 1 and a, 2 and a, 3 and a, 4 E and a. So we're just leaving out the E's on beats 1, 2, and 3 because the note on the beat is an 8th note, so that gets held for the equivalent of 2 16ths, and then there's the 2 16th notes that are actually 16th notes. Hopefully that all makes sense. It's very simple math. It's just getting your head around it and giving it a lot of practice. This is a great rhythm to practice for your Iron Maiden playing, because one of the most famous gallopers of all time, of course, is Steve Harris. So we're just going to do a very basic gallop pattern here at a pretty slow tempo, just for fun. And of course, I've thrown in the little variation to the gallop on beat 4 there. So here we go. 1, 2, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. So hopefully you can detect all the delightful Steve Harris possibilities there. Now I just want to play a bunch of Iron Maiden songs, but I'm going to keep teaching you this bass lesson. Okay, so moving right along to exercise 3, our final exercise for the day. All we're going to do here is flip that rhythm. So instead of having an 1/8 and 2/16, we're going to go 2 16th notes and then an 1/8 note on each beat. So if we were to count a bar full of those, we would go 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and. So if we actually look at exercise 3, the rhythm we have here, we've got 1E and rest on 2, 3E and rest on 4, then 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and. So a little bit more consistent rhythmically than exercise 2. Let's just play this. Really the trick to learning all these different rhythms, especially the more challenging syncopated rhythms we're going to hit next week, is to just get them in your ear so that when you're reading a piece of music, you see a rhythm and you just know how it's going to sound instantly without having to count it or work it out too much. So this is the beginning of that exciting process. Here we go with exercise 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, great work on those. So those are two basic, well, really 3 basic 16th note rhythms we've covered today. 1E and a 2E and a 3, just a basic 16th note pulse, and we also covered 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a, which is a gallop rhythm, and 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and, which is kind of a reverse gallop, if you will. And of course, these rhythms are not restricted to any particular style or genre. We did the gallop in a sort of rock style. We did the reverse gallop in a sort of funky style, but those I just decided to do that for kicks. You know, rhythms exist cross style in all different genres and whatnot. So don't associate any particular rhythm with any particular style too much. Of course, there are some rhythms that appear more in certain styles than others, but there's no rhythm that one style has the lock on. Like, hey man, that's our rhythm. Get out of here. Switchblade, grease, gangs. All right, so again, check out the rhythm resources page I've created for you guys. Practice, practice, practice. If you want to be a good bass player, you need to have a good rhythmic foundation. If you want to have a good rhythmic foundation, you need to practice your rhythms. It's really that simple. I'm not one to tell people how much they should practice or anything like that in general, but if you want to improve on something, you need to put some time in and do some work. Straight up, yo, you can watch YouTube all you want, but you need to practice on your own as well. So that's the end of this lesson. Next week we will hit advanced 16th note syncopations, which will be a significant jump in difficulty, but you know, you'll do lots of practice this week before next week, so it should be fine. Thank you guys for watching. I'll be back at you next week. If you would like to support these lessons so that I can continue to make them for you, please check out my Patreon page where you can become a patron, contribute a small ongoing amount, and receive rewards for doing so, like monthly hangouts, transcriptions, audio downloads of my original music, that kind of stuff. And you can also make donations through my website with PayPal if you want to do that instead. But I really appreciate your support, those of you who have supported me, and those of you who have the means to but have not done so. I just want you to know that if you enjoy these lessons, having support from my viewers is really important, because I don't make that much money from doing this, and other life concerns do present themselves, and I can't always make time for these. But if just 2% of you were willing to pledge $1 a video, I could actually do this full time. So, you know, it's up to you. If you think that these bass lessons matter to you, then do what you can. And if you don't have the money to contribute, then of course sharing on your social media and that kind of stuff is really helpful as well. No guilt trips, just, you know, giving you guys the scoop, man. If there's no support for these videos, then they will only keep existing for so long. You know what I mean? You know, hopefully bass lessons matter to you guys, because I think playing bass is really awesome, and I think that music is important, and if we can play bass well and have a good rhythmic foundation, then that's good for the world in some way. So I'll say in closing, as we learned from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, be excellent to each other and party on, dudes.